It's my perspective, my perspective, my perspective, my perspective, my perspective, my perspective. It's my perspective, my perspective, my perspective, my perspective, my perspective, my perspective. It's my perspective, my perspective. It's my perspective. And welcome everybody to the New African Perspective, the show that is dedicated to the liberation of New African people. I am your host, Brother Prophecy, aka Yera. And as you can see, I'm not by myself, even though my soldiers are on the road. You know what I'm saying, heading back to the M Town, out of Bewell City, but they still riding with me, and they are none other than the President and Vice President of the Republic of New Africa. They are
Mama Ayo, Free the Land.
Yes,
hey,
definitely.
Brother Prophecy, I missed y'all these last couple weeks. I've been missing y'all. I hope everything good, comrades.
Definitely. And we're part of something called the New African Independence Movement. That's where we advocate and struggle for land, independence, self-determination, reparation, in the creation of an economic system that is not about the exploitation of everybody, but it's all about making sure that we all have the necessary resources we need to not only survive, but thrive. We call that scientific socialism. But we have, for the last few weeks, we've been going over this document, a part of the Code of Umoja. We call it the Aims of the Revolution. And we are up to number 6. And
exactly.
Let me pull that up, and I know y'all are driving, so I'm just gonna read it out for everybody. Aims of the Revolution, number 6, to create conditions in which freedom of religion abounds in man's pursuit of God and or the destiny, place, and purpose of man in the universe will be without hindrance. That's a mouthful, and that seems like it's really, really important. So what do y'all think of this particular aim of the revolution, aim number 6?
That is several levels of questions, Brother Prophecy, but I believe that we are in the process of creating, because you already know that we have to have a historical perspective about religion in this country, for new Africans, for people who are the descendants of enslaved Africans. So when we talk about religion, we know that it says that we want all religions to prosper and to be present. However, it should be in alignment with our goals and objectives of freeing the land. And that's how I'm going to end that. Our religion, our spirituality should be in alignment with our goals and objectives to free the land, to build a new African culture, to bring what we call new African family and community and nation back into fruition. And with that, I'm going to yield.
Yes, I'm in total alignment. Can you hear me?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I'm in total alignment with what Mama Aya was saying. You know, the top of our creed says, "I believe in the spirituality," right? And for me personally, in just studying all of our various religions that our people, New African people, Aboriginal people, African people, practice. For me personally, if you are spiritual and you're coming from a spiritual perspective, all of them are saying the same thing. Okay, the end goal is the same. So the end goal is kingdom building. Kingdom building is nation building. You understand what I'm saying? It's the same thing, and that's what people have to comprehend and understand. If you say that you belong to the Most High, you belong to the Creator. You have a deep relationship with the Creator, and that means you have a deep relationship with the creation. You know, so I hate when we as a people start bickering over religion, because it's really a moot point when you're talking about spirituality.
Definitely.
You're trying to get your spirit aligned with God. Aligning yourself with God is more so aligning yourself with universal law and order. And everybody, I don't care who you are, you live and die. We all live and die by people being visualizing different words or different stories. And folks think their story is just better than the next person's story, when in the long run, the story is supposed to help you become a better person. So if the story, whether it was a Christian story, whether it was a Yoruba story, whether it was, if the story helps you to become a better person, a righteous person, somebody that loves your brothers and sisters as yourself, somebody that upholds self to a certain moral character, then it's a win to me. Now you're back.
I say.
Exactly. I mean, it really, just shows the wisdom of the elders and ancestors who put together the whole code of Umoja, the code of the New African Creed, the aims and goals of the revolution. Because, one, religion, like many things under the system of white supremacy, imperialism, colonialism, has been something that has been used as a tool of division, as far as our people are concerned, because it was used under this system as a means of control. So we understand, at least our ancestors understand, that Black people or New African people, we're not a monolith. If we come to the approach to think that everybody's going to believe at the same thing at the same time, then we kind of fooling ourselves. We have to get to that point where, okay, like you said, our goal and objective is nation building. It doesn't matter if you're a Rastafarian. It doesn't matter if you're a Muslim, regardless to what type of Muslim you care about, whether you're a Sunni, Shiite, Nation of Islam, or some other form. It does not matter if you're a Christian, regardless to what denomination you're in. It does not matter if you're in African spirituality. It does not matter if you don't believe in any of that stuff. It does not matter. We're trying to create a society that embraces all of us, because we still have one goal. Because, like Brother Malcolm said, when that police pull you over, they don't ask, "Are you a Muslim? Are you a Christian? Are you this? Are you that?" All they see is a Black person. And from their perspective, it ain't even that. It's just a nigga. So the fact that they address this issue that has caused so much division within our community is extremely insightful, because we're trying to create a world that is not about holding anybody back, or saying anybody can't raise to the highest level of human potential. And I'm going to yield on that. And we could talk about that the whole show,
Okay.
the whole program. Want to say what's up to Mr. Joe Gonzalez. How you doing? He says, "Good day, revolutionary comrades." And Melly Queen checking in.
Be the land,
Melly
comrade.
Queen, yeah, Melly Queen checking in. Free the land, comrades,
Free the land,
and family. How y'all doing? How's everybody? How's everything going? Post and share and the tag. Thank you so very much, Melly Queen. Definitely. So, yeah, no doubt. So, Madam President, what we got on tap for the show today?
Well, we're about to talk about it today. Today in the colonial masters world is Memorial Day, right? Well, we as New African people, we're going to take the time out to honor our fallen soldiers that have been fighting against the oppressor ever since the oppressor and the colonizer landed in their lands and went into captivity. No matter where we're from, right? Africa, folks original from here, just highly melanated folks, right?
Hey, you kind of breaking up, side. Do me a favor. Turn your mic on. Turn your mic on. I'm gonna turn Mama Ayo's off. Let me see if that can help us out.
Okay. Can you hear me? Mama Ayo, you turn yours off or turn it down?
Yeah, Mama Ayo, turn your mic off.
Honoring our fallen. Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I was trying to get Mama Ayo to turn her mic off. There we go.
It's off now.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so we're honoring our fallen souls today. Also in our cadre corner, since we missed last week and it was Malcolm X's birthday weekend, we're gonna go ahead and cover the autobiography of Malcolm X. And then in our Black Power file, we are going to take the time to talk about African Liberation Day, ALD, that happened on, what was that, the 25th? 25th. So that's what we're going to discuss. But I know it's some stuff in the news. I just know. There's always stuff in the news.
Always. Always stuff going on in the news. I got a couple of stories we'll go over. So the family of a black man who was murdered in Independence, Missouri, who was actually pent in his car after he had an accident, was brutally shot by police. Let me make sure I say this correctly. Then 39-year-old Tyrese Pryor, a black man who was in a car accident, and the accident was so bad that it had him pent in his car. In other words, he couldn't get out of his car. He was pent in his car, and police shot him. Now, context to this particular case, police had put their lights on this particular car, and he fled. For whatever reason, he didn't stop. He sped up, and he ran into a pole. He had a crash. The police went into his car, and they got a gun out of the car, like an AR or assault rifle, out of the car, pulled it out of the car. So the gun that was in his car, the police had it in custody. So in the video, you will hear the video in a second, but they came over and they got his girlfriend out of the car, and another police just said, yeah, he got a gun, and they shot him. Although he didn't have any gun. In fact, the brother was badly hurt. You could hear him moaning from the injuries he sustained in the car accident. In fact, he was pent in the car when they shot him, and I'm gonna try to pull that video up now so we can see it.
Get her out, so get out now.
I'm trying, I can't get
out. On the ground now. On the ground.
Okay.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, don't move your hand. Hey, he's got a gun. Put it down. Come on. Get her out of there. Come on. Greg Rose. Get on the ground.
All right. Now, as y'all saw in the video basically shows this brother basically being executed because You hear the police saying he has a gun, but he doesn't have a gun. The police had his gun. He was basically just pent, and you can hear him moaning in pain from his injuries. So it was obvious this man was not a threat. I don't know what type of threat they could have seen from a guy who's in pain, who's actually pent, couldn't get out of his car. And police just said, "Oh, he got a gun and there is shot." What are your thoughts on this particular case?
I mean, you know, my thoughts be the same every time when these stories come up. You know, this is literally is life or death for us, y'all. Period. Like, we don't have no other choice but to do for self. In a very emergency, we're in an emergency state. We're in an emergency state. That's an emergency. Every body lost is an emergency. This is an emergency. People are dying. Whole generations are dying because we have decided collectively that this is the choice we want to make. Forget about the lives being lost, right? You know, this is a very unacceptable. Expect more from us as a collective. You understand what I'm saying? Make better decisions for our future. How old was this brother?
This brother, at the time, he was 39 years old.
39 years old. That's around, you know, that's a couple of years younger than me, right? That is, look, that's young. You know, these are people disappearing from the planet that should not be. So, you know, this is unacceptable. It's unacceptable. Yep. So, literally, if our people constantly, continuously dying is not enough to move us, then I really don't know what, because we are in a dire situation, life or death. We're seeing death every single day. So we have to make conscious decisions with our time here on the planet. You know, we got to throw fear out the door. We got to throw it out the window, because us not executing our plan very ferociously is continuing our demise. And so we're adding on to our demise anytime we take a back seat to our self-determination.
Definitely. Mama Ayo, you got anything you want to add to this?
I just think that when people when the world sees how capitalism, imperialism, white supremacy, and racism exhibits their inhumanity to people who have been enslaved under a cruel system in this country, and they have continued to do so since the time that they first brought us in physical chains. I think that we can still call this modern day examples of chattel slavery. They don't have the physical iron chains, but we have other types of physical restrictions, social restrictions, political restrictions, economic restrictions, health restrictions. So it is all part and parcel of a system who claims to have set up the United Nations, claims to have set up the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, supposed to be the founding members, etc., Convention on People's Rights, and yet blatant inhumanity against people who reside in this country, who have never been citizens, but who, except on paper, but politically and socially have never, ever gotten the rights guaranteed through the Constitution. Of course, you're going to continue to see that because this is a blatant and glaring example on top of all the examples that we cite every week, every year about it's an inhumane, unjust, illegal system in the world court, in the court of human nations, goes beyond. So it's a compounding problem. It is one that the world continues, and not only the world, but new Africans. We have to be able to analyze it for what it is, and then make correct decisions, bold solutions to this continuing issue that we face as a nation in this country. I yield.
Right. Can I
Yes.
answer that real quick, brother?
Yes,
Brother?
please.
You know, it's you know, it's one thing for us to say, you know, people, folks, the world court understands that this, that, the other. But when you say you have the right to practice self-determination, that means the word itself, self-determination, our freedom is determined by us and us alone. There is nobody else that's going to determine what that looks like for us. So when we say we have the right to practice self-determination, we cannot expect a different other people outside of us, especially the colonial masters, to acknowledge your right to self-determination. That's an oxymoron. It's self-determination. We are the ones that have to determine what our life on this planet looks like. We're the ones. That means we have to put in the footwork. We have to organize. We are the ones that have to build and create and be a part and willing to operate our institutions. That's just point blank, period. It's self-determination. Ain't nobody else about to give us our freedom. That's not their responsibility. That is our responsibility to claim that which is our human right. It's not, you don't look outside of yourself. It's you and God. You in creation. You are a direct part of creation. You have the human right to determine for yourself what is happiness, to determine for yourself what is peace and harmony in our community, to determine for ourselves. It is nobody else's responsibility. So if we are looking at the news and we're tired of seeing our people die, well then, guess what? We have to determine be self-determined and keep it from happening.
Definitely.
Whatever that looks like.
Definitely. Just a little more to that story. The police were not charged. They were basically just let them go on by their business after they executed a man who was hurt in a car accident, and they just brutally murdered him. I'm going to go to a couple of comments. What's up, Confidence? Chizoro OKK said, free the land from Florida. Imenta, thank you. All right, good. Good to hear from you, brother. Good to hear from you, brother. Joe Gonzalez again. He said, I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. Hopefully, everyone is also free the land. Melly Queen, like, oh my effing God. What the F? I am so damn sick of these mutts. They show no respect at all to black people. Look how they were talking to him. Effing dogs. I am sick of seeing this BS. Why can't we black people see this crap? Sickening. And I co-sign with that sentiment.
Absolutely. And condolences to another family. Family upon families.
The family is actually suing Independence, Missouri for $25 million, you know, and if they get every penny, it's still not enough.
It sure is not. I would have maxed that. I would have maxed it out.
See, Melly Queen again.
Max it out.
Yeah, Melly Queen again said, look how they were talking to the young lady, and they were just in an accident. They don't value us as human beings, period. Fuck them all. I mean, F them all. I'm sorry. That's why I have no respect for any of these blue-hearted mutt pigs. I'm sick of them. We are defending ourselves, nor are we responding to these threats appropriately. And once again, I do concur. New Black Panther Party, Newark, Virginia chapter, Black Power. Black power to you, comrade. Good, so happy that you joined us. Let me get into this other story real quick. This is actually something that happened in Rankins County, Mississippi, and we reported on this story before. But the FBI are investigating an incident where 2 black men were tortured for 2 hours by white police officers, and including one black man, a brother by the name of Michael Jenkins, which was shot in the mouth. Now, this was in Mississippi. According to the police, they were accused of selling drugs or something. Now, according to their lawyer, they were actually abused and tortured because they were sleeping with white women. And I'm going to go to their lawyer and let y'all listen to what he says. Lawyer is an individual that we kind of know, a brother by the name of Shabazz Malik. But I'm going to go to him and let y'all listen to what he has to say.
On January 23rd in Rankin County, Mississippi, without showing a warrant, cops burst into a home. 2 black men lay inside, Brother Michael Jenkins and Brother Terrell. They were falsely accused by this 6 white officers of dating white women and selling drugs, and that wasn't true. The 2 were immediately subdued and handcuffed in the residence. But instead of taking the handcuffed men into immediate custody for their alleged crime, the 6 white cops decided they would hold the men hostage and terrorize them for nearly 2 hours inside the home. While the men were handcuffed and bound, these 6 Rankin County white cops beat the men while they were handcuffed, tased the men repeatedly while they were handcuffed, punched, slapped, and beat the men while they were handcuffed, and incredibly, the white officers used waterboarding tactics in this raid. Then in the course of this torture and physical abuse and humiliation, Rankin County sheriffs were both putting guns to both men's heads, threatening to kill them while handcuffed. Then tragedy struck when one of the sheriffs shot Michael Jenkins in the mouth. Yes, the cop shot Michael in his mouth, almost killing him, causing him life-threatening injuries, and Michael is in an ICU and had to have his tongue removed from his mouth.
There you have it. This not only were these 2 brothers tortured, one was shot in the mouth, and as you heard the lawyer, this brother has his tongue cut off. You know, it's kind of crazy. What do you think about this story? I see Mama Ayo just dropped off.
Again, I mean, how much torture are we willing to keep going through? You understand what I'm saying? We got to be self-determining what that looked like, and what it looked like in a smart, intelligent way. You understand what I'm saying? You know, because a lot of times we be like, we be wanting to be all extra showy. Look, the revolution ain't televised. You know, you got to respect the unseen. That's all I'm gonna say.
Sure.
Definitely. I can't. You're not showing up, Mama Ayo. I don't know what's going on with your particular feed.
She right here.
Yeah. So, you have any comments on this particular story about this brother being shot in the mouth and they've been tortured?
Of course, every example are examples of how one man who considers themselves, privileged over another man, shows their compassion, their humanity, their ability to resolve conflicts in a humane way. And of course, since we don't have rights as new African people, then we're seeing more and more examples of shoot first Ask questions later, justify your actions. That's the game. So again, we are encouraging our people to remain vigilant, to remember to serve and protect the community, to decrease horizontal violence, and to always be aware. It doesn't matter at any given moment, for any given reason, our people can be shot down in the streets again, like dogs. And with that, I yield.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, another crazy story. Black men terrorized Mississippi, tortured 2 hours, ending with one of the brothers shot in the mouth, and his injuries were so severe. Fortunately, he didn't die, but they had to remove his tongue in order to deal with him being shot in the mouth by these pig police. Melly Queen says, Comrade Yera, your stories have me heated. I cannot understand why blacks do not see what is going on and are not changing their behavior in defending our children and people. Let me see. We are allowing this mess to go. All this talking and no real work or action in response to the terrorism that we are going through in America. Definitely. Queen T. Jones, how you doing? She said, peace and love, family, free the land. Glad to hear you checking in today. Good to see you. But yeah,
Free the land. Free the land. Free the land.
Yeah, definitely. But we're gonna take us a brief break, and when we come back, we're gonna go over our cadre corner. You are you gonna do it, Mama Ayo? So I know since you're driving, but we're gonna talk
Yes,
about the. Okay,
all
all right. That's awesome. So we'll be back talking about our comrade, our freedom fighter, Mr. Malcolm X, the autobiography of Malcolm X, right here on the New African Perspectives. Free the land.
By any means necessary.
I fight for land, independence, and for reparations. We gotta do for self-determination.
Being independent is a very, very good thing because it means that you don't have to be dependent, especially on people who don't like you. I mean, growing your own food, like teaching your own babies our real history, the real truth.
As a people, we are not grown unless we have independence. We are not grown as long as we living under another man's system, operating in his way of things, his laws, and his ordinances that support his rule, actually. So to me, it's not the importance of self-determination and independence. It is mandatory.
Or we could make a change, get off our ass, do something else. Go get some land together, grow our food and do for self. Create our own stores, our own banks, start building wealth. Break them generational curses and start healing self. See with my land.
Study the writings, speeches, documents of our freedom fighters in order to free our neo-colonialized minds. This is the Cadre Corner.
All right, Mama Ayo.
Okay, Free the Land comrades. Today, we want to, of course, discuss this autobiography of Malcolm X in honor of and remembrance of his birthday, his solar return, his Earth Strong, and just to talk a little bit about the man and his legacy. You know, sometimes we're given messengers that are sent to us through all different types of circumstances. So you have a life of a young man after losing, of course, his father and mother, not being able to hold up under those type of conditions because of the nature in which her husband was murdered, being one of the what we call one of the disciples of the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey, and as a result of his murder and untimely death, the family was disrupted. Trauma set in, and the mother, of course, had to have some emotional support from the community in which that didn't happen. So she ended up having to be separated from her children, and her children dispersed. And Malcolm being able to talk about that to Alex Haley, the author of Roots, who put this book together, and of course, did a forward. And Malcolm kind of describes his life as he remembers it, and having to go through trials and tribulations, and witnessing white supremacy and racism very early, and being caught up, what we call caught up in the life, moving from Nebraska, to Detroit, to different areas, having to live with relatives, and just charting his path of crime in the streets, living that life, and moving on, and eventually, because of what he decided to do, becoming a person who was pimping out women, and especially a few white women, he was caught and given a sentence that didn't quite fit the crime, but nevertheless, it was a crime on the books of America. That's those Jim Crow laws. You better not be caught with a white woman, whether you up north or down south, where you east or you west. And Malcolm going to prison and transforming through the teachings and the tutelage of the Nation of Islam, and his rise. The book talks about his rise and fall in the nation, but moving on and evolving to be what we call an international figure for liberation, Black power, human rights, all of it. And it should be, in my opinion, of course, it needs to be in our libraries as New Africans, but this particular book should always be given to our teenagers, particularly our board children, and making sure that they have discussions about Malcolm's life, so that they internalize it, be able to verbalize how his life is still a reflection of the life in 2022, 2023, and beyond, and how he utilized his wisdom, skill, reading abilities to maneuver, to master, and to analyze and become, I said, one of the strongest, revolutionary leaders and liberation leaders of the century. And, I just encourage everyone, have that book, because and that is why we say today that sometimes behind the walls are those universities, those transformational fields that occur when our brothers are locked up and locked down. That's the potential, and that's the message of Malcolm's story. And to know that because he charted the path that's opposite of what we call turning the other cheek, and nonviolence, into that what you do to us will be met with the same force and the same intensity on which it is given. He talks about the Ballad of the Bullet. He talks about his pilgrimage to Mecca, and we call his name. Omar Wale, Malcolm Little, Malcolm X, El Haj Malik El Shabazz, all things to many people, and to revere him, because based on his path and setting up his mosque, the Obadeli brothers, Gaidi and Milton, were his disciples, and they carried on his legacy even after he was assassinated in New York. And they are Malcolm is one of the founding fathers of the provisional government of the Republic of New Africa. So this book, on so many levels, not only as the Black book in the house, but the Black book to be given to our young men who are ready for rites of passage and adulthood. And with that, comrades, Malcolm X, the autobiography of Malcolm X.
Definitely, definitely a must-have for I think everybody, especially like you said. I think all of our young men should especially read this book, because I remember it was like a life-changing event when I read it when I think I was a junior in high school. Very important book, very important book. I mean, especially being that Malcolm was one of those individuals who successfully transformed a criminalistic mentality to a revolutionary mentality, being that he transformed his mind state and his intellect. And it just really shows how something, we say all the time when we left the prison, last time we talked to the brothers behind the walls, I came back and I said, hey, our most brilliant minds are behind the walls. And it's just a matter of changing our perspectives. So definitely something that we have to, a brother that we must study, and his works is something that we have to read. Melly Queen says, salute to Brother Malcolm X.
Shay.
The one thing that both of y'all mentioned, the one word that both of y'all mentioned that is key, and that is key for all new African people, is transformation. Brother Malcolm represented transformation to the T, like the phoenix out of the ashes. You know what I'm saying? When you have all of these different religious stories that refer to a king or a prophet or a Messiah, that is internal work that's being done to become a king, a Messiah, or a prophet. That is an earned title. You understand what I'm saying? And there's more than one. It's when we read these things, it's about a journey of self. And I respect Malcolm so much is he literally became a Messiah. He transformed himself into a prophet, a Messiah, a king that we will follow forever. Right? That's how you earn a title. He earned his name being spoken forever and always, because he did that internal work. That's what crowns you king. That's what makes you queen, when you do that internal work. And that's what people don't realize. That's what makes you what you are. If you say that you are new African, you become new African. You transforming yourself into becoming new African, so that you can be that light set on the hill, right? So these are the things. This is why, we say, going back to, I believe in the spirituality. This brother utilized Islam, right, to transmute and transform himself, his personality, to transmute and transform himself into a person of nobility and high moral character, right? So I love when I tell you, he is the epitome of the power of transformation. And I yield back.
Yeah, definitely. I know it reminds me a lot today when I hear our people complain about all of the negative things and the self-destructive behavior within our community. I mean, a lot of us are kind of fall into that trap of negative propaganda, and it just overwhelms us, and we feel hopeless, like, no, Lord, can't nothing, we can't never change, or so much thing. But remember, when you see brothers and sisters in the streets or in the so-called hood acting out in ways that is opposite of our very nature, understand Malcolm was the same way. You're looking at someone who, you're looking at a Malcolm X who has not transformed their mentality yet. But just because they have not transformed their mentality yet doesn't mean they can't. So we need to keep that in mind and understand that things are not hopeless. We're just in a particular stage, and we got to work to get into that next stage instead of being stuck here complaining about what we are, because complaining ain't going to do nothing. That ain't what Malcolm did. He didn't sit and complain about his condition. He did something about it. He educated himself, and he educated his condition, and ultimately he became one of the most powerful leaders of our movement. And because of that, he was murdered in this war that has been waged against our people. Brother Malcolm, what happened to Brother Malcolm was an example of the war that has been waged against our people. And that kind of brings us to our topic for the day, since it is Memorial Day. And on Memorial Day, we're kind of told that it's about the celebration or the honoring of soldiers who have died in defense of the wars fought in America. Well, it's a war that's been fought in America for over 400 years, a war that has been fought globally on African people for centuries. And we very rarely get acknowledged for it. The victims very rarely get honored, memorialized. You don't have stars up on the wall for our brothers and sisters who have perished in this war against African people. But today we want to memorialize them. We want to talk about the casualties of our war against imperialism, white supremacy, colonialism, this white power structure that has been so devastating to the entire world. So what's y'all comment on that, on our fallen soldiers, like Brother Malcolm and so many more?
We've had fallen soldiers since the time they started taking us from the village. For every one African who was taken to the slave ship, there were 6 Africans who were trying to defend each and every person. You know, you have the trek down from, you know, wherever they were bringing our enslaved brothers and sisters, the trek to the slave dungeons was what they call castles. We call that the Trail of Bones, not the Trail of Tears, the Trail of Bones. They fell. So you talk about those fallen soldiers, those fallen people who tried to defend and protect their villages from the onslaught to the Great Mafa. Those fallen soldiers, with both men and women, who had to persevere over to the Middle Passage, where they either died from the sickness or they threw themselves overboard. Those were our soldiers, and the soldiers who said, "We will strike at another time." The biggest thing to do is to persevere and to live. Those people, those brothers and sisters, those new Africans are the strongest of the strongest. And then to get onto this land, or to get into Trinidad, Tobago, Jamaica, Panama, wherever they dropped off, Cuba, Bahamas, Virgin Islands, and the list goes on and on. To persevere in each one of those holding cells, and to come to this country, and to be dropped off, to have the seasoning time, then to be some shipped, some put into breeding farms. What? Those are the soldiers. Those are the soldiers, the ones that tried to rebel, who were rebellious, those that had to give up their lives, those that tried to poison, burn down, who never stopped resisting, and on and on and on and on. Toussaint, all of them, fallen soldiers. We call your name. We call your name. And our don't forget Fort Pillow. Don't forget Fort Pillow. So there are so many instances. Don't forget the massacres. Don't forget, we didn't just stand there and people took us. We had defense. Did we have the best? No. But we defended and tried to protect, whether we lost the battle or we won the battle. And it's still going on, especially in the world wars, through prejudice, segregation. And don't talk about the Civil War, because that changed the dynamic of America, because they saw who we were. If we were given a gun to defend and protect what we wanted to do, let's not forget. Let's not forget. We should never forget. And going on and on and on up until present day, Brother Prophecy, in every war that this imperialistic nation waged on anybody in the name of a so-called democracy, our brothers, our sisters were on the front lines. And when they came back, they were never appreciated. Ranks, they didn't get the proper medical care, the proper psychological care, the education. Yes, that's Memorial Day for you. Don't forget. Remember. Ashe.
Ashe on that.
And Mama Iles took the words right out of my mouth in terms of this ongoing memorial. It's an ongoing memorial for our fallen soldiers, because guess what? We are still prisoners of war. We are at war currently, whether you know it or not. We're at war currently. We have fallen soldiers that are falling because they're putting the wrong food in their bodies. We have fallen soldiers falling because they're taking that medication that is not indigenous to them. Right? We have fallen soldiers because we're thinking ourselves to death. You understand? Remember, we are African people. We're highly melanated people. We know that we are what we think. We are what we say. We are what we do. We are a holistic people. And if we're out of alignment, if we see things out of alignment outside of ourselves, that means we're dying. Okay? We're dying a slow death. So just because you are breathing right now, that don't mean your cells is not dying. That doesn't mean that your mind is not. You understand what I'm saying? We have to be vigilant. We have to be extremely vigilant because we are under attack on all levels. And it's an ongoing memorial. Just like you mentioned the brothers that was murdered and severely injured, ridiculously injured, inhumanely. You understand? Okay? These are fallen soldiers. And we have fallen soldiers. The majority of our people right now, I'm gonna say about 98% of our people don't have a clue. It's almost something internal that is like difficult for us to tap back into, right? So we be all over the place, and it's biochemical warfare going on. It's so many. We're attacked on so many different levels. We're attacked with certain frequencies and sounds and vibrations all the time. So, pouring libation to our fallen soldiers and pouring libation to our continuous memorial, because we every day, every minute, as we speak, we're dying. Shame. And it's going to be up to us for the revival. When I think about all of these different stories that talk about resurrection from the dead, right? Like, we in that space. We have to resurrect ourselves from this dying space that we find ourselves in. Exactly. We got to climb ourselves up out the hole, and resurrect ourselves and utilizing our sciences, getting back in tune with our principles, our new African principles, our laws of Ma'at, our universal law and order. This is our responsibility as the keepers of the planet. We are the keepers of the planet. This is our planet. And right now we're allowing a beast to rule. Whose fault is that?
Definitely. You said a lot. I mean, and did you want to say something, Mayo? Oh, you kind of froze up. Your screen kind of froze up. Well, I'll say this. You named a lot of ways in which we have been attacked, from the physical, from the biological, from policies. We've been attacked on all fronts, from school to environmental racism. One way that we can't forget, an important way, and one of the most powerful tools that have been worked against us, is the psychological warfare that has been waged on us. Because we've been in this country that has attacked us and told us that we are less than human beings for over 400 years. It has created an unbelievable amount of self-hate within our communities. So even when you see the violence that goes on in the street between each other, the so-called black on black violence, which is really a political term, but even that particular aspect is a manifestation of the war against our people. It's one of the most, matter of fact, it's one of the most effective tactics that they have used on us. So when we think about this war in memorializing our fallen soldiers, even the victims of the war between the Crips and the Bloods, the GDs and the Vice Lords, all of them are victims of this war against Black people in America. And we have to understand that. We have to understand that when we look at ourselves and look at our communities, we are survivors of war. We are survivors of a war that is still going on today. and we have to respond accordingly. Did you want to say something else, Mama Ayo?
I'm agreeing with you.
Oh, okay. All right. So I'm gonna go to a couple of comments. Queen T. Jones says, salute to all our fallen warriors.
I say.
Yes. Melly Queen. Some were even lynched by the government when they came back from war. Yeah, a lot of our soldiers who fought in U.S. wars, in which Black people have fought in all of the United States wars. Many of them, when they came back, they were lynched. In fact, the massacre of 1866 that happened right here in Ida B. Wells City, aka formerly known as Memphis, Tennessee, was really started because a lot of ex-Black soldiers from the Civil War were here in the white power force. White power structure didn't like it, and it really sparked a Rosewood style massacre right here in Memphis, Tennessee. So. Exactly. Yeah, and Meta Queen, salute to all our fallen soldiers. Definitely. Let me see. Queen T. Jones.
I just have one more comment after you finish reading.
Okay. We must start much earlier introducing the self-determination readings to our children. It used to be midterm, but we must imprint our teachings much earlier with our children. Yeah, definitely, because they start being indoctrinated into this system of white supremacy from birth, from TV and social media and every aspect. So, yeah, I'm with you on that. What did you want to say, Mama Ayo?
I said that we definitely want to take a moment for the political prisoners that have put their lives on the line, that have already passed on, that are still incarcerated, that are still just being released, and even the brothers and sisters who came after them, who, because they declared their allegiance to the Black Liberation Army on behalf of the provisional government of the Republic of New Africa, they are suffering, and they are being persecuted in solitary for inhumane numbers of hours, days, and years. So we want to always make sure we send remembrance to those fallen soldiers, because many of them that were listed when the provisional government put out its 1987 Reparations Act and listed the immediate release of political prisoners at that particular time. Many of them have passed on, comrade, to be quite honest. And there may be one or two that are still on that list, that long list, and others have never been added to the list that need to.
Exactly. So yeah, definitely. So yeah, we have to. It's our responsibility to continue to fight for our political prisoners and continue to honor our brothers and sisters, our kings and queens, our soldiers who have given their lives in this war against our people, because our enemy, the oppressor, the colonizer, is not going to do it. In fact, they're going to make us think that it never was a war and our fallen soldiers were enemies of the state, because that's what propaganda does. But exactly. when we get back, we're going to talk about African Liberation Day, which is very, very, very important. Extremely important.
Definitely. America, full of promises. Time to cash them in. You run from it quick. You never keep your word. I learned from it quick. You keep abusing me. You dumb.
Europeans murdered 98% of the indigenous population right here in Turtle Island in order to steal the land. An entire nation of African people were captured and forced into a brutal system of chattel slavery just so they could work and cultivate the land. All wars are fought over land, not over terrorism, not over religion, not even to win the hearts and minds of the people, but for the actual land and the resources within the land. So it is safe to say that land is the foundation to all freedom. So if we truly want to be free, then our struggle is for land. Free the land. Leaders, scholars, freedom fighters, all those soldiers who've been struggling for the liberation of black people. This is the Black Power 5.
For more videos on people's struggles, please subscribe to our YouTube channel.
May 25th is celebrated as African Liberation Day. The day marks the foundation of the Organization of African Unity in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia in 1963. The formation of the OAU, or the Organization of African Unity, was a key moment in a centuries-long struggle against colonialism, capitalism, and imperialism. For more than 500 years, African people have been dehumanized and degraded, with their bodies and labor commodified to enrich a ruling elite. From slave labor on cotton and sugar plantations to the extraction of gold and diamonds from the earth, the development of Europe and the Americas happened through the rapid exploitation of African people. Through the collective experiences of deprivation, African people in the diaspora and continent developed a resistance movement. There were many milestones in this process. The formation of independent maroon communities by former slaves and Afro-Caribbean people, the first Pan-African Conference held in 1900, the fifth Pan-African Congress in Manchester, 1945, and over the decades, political consciousness grew around the necessity to wage a revolutionary Pan-African struggle against colonial and imperial rule in the 20th century. The revolutionary anti-colonial movements culminated in the mid-century with the independence of several African nations from European powers and the formation of the Organization of African Unity. African Liberation Day, as it came to be known, was born from the fierce fight for a new society. As Kwame Nkrumah said, the African Revolution, while still concentrating its main effort on the destruction of imperialism, colonialism, and neocolonialism, aims at the same time to bring about a radical transformation of society. The choice has already been made by the workers and peasants of Africa. They have chosen liberation and unification, for the political unification of Africa and socialism are synonymous. One cannot be achieved without the other. Today, African unity and liberation from exploitation is a distant reality. Western Sahara and some islands in the Indian Ocean remain under colonial rule. Capitalism continues to brutally ravage and exploit Africa and its people. The IMF and World Bank have consistently imposed a neo-colonial agenda on the continent, and the Organization of African Unity, now known as the African Union, is a puppet of capital and elite interests. The International Working Class on May 25th celebrates the victories of revolutionary Pan-Africanism. On African Liberation Day, it recalls the long history of struggles against class exploitation. The working class knows more than ever that attaining full emancipation demands a revolution from below in the interests of people over profit. The only antidote to imperialism that continues to impoverish the African people is an organized force in Africa ready to pursue Pan-Africanism under scientific socialism.
Que cantar que vamos a triunfar, avanzan ya banderas de unidad.
Right. That's African Liberation Day. Which was May 25th, and that's the day to celebrate basically our brothers and sisters from Africa who were able to shake the hands of the colonizer away from their throats and gain their liberation in solidarity with all the people who are struggling for liberation against our European power structure. So what do y'all think about May 25th? African Liberation Day?
I believe that we have to honor the fact that Africa united to put into place, to attempt to put into place a more organized structure to deal with the continent as a whole, one Africa. And of course, it was thwarted course, there were puppets of neocolonialism and imperialism and settler colonialism to make sure that did not happen. So here we are, fast forwarding at least 58 years, 57 years later, 58 years, and we have a critical situation where we've allowed army bases that serve the interests of the imperial masters to be put in our borders and on our borders. There is no intra-African unity. The AU has been formulated, but there has not been African High Command, a transcontinental highway, and yet we are calling for African Liberation Day because we're talking about wherever you are as an African. If Africa is not free, nowhere in the world will a black man be free. So it is incumbent that nationalism, Pan-Africanism is practiced and established across the board at the same time, because our struggles are tied in together. So for me, it's still the battle cry of free the land, because everywhere you are as an African, you are neo-colonialized and under the control of colonial masters. You are still your land. And so for the land is our wealth, the land is our site of independence. Everybody needs to free the land. I yield.
Definitely.
Oh, shoot. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, hold on. Let me get back to the screen here. Okay. Just in alignment with what Mama Ayos said. There, to add to look. It's a day of remembrance in terms of remembering what our collective responsibility is on the planet. Okay, it's a day to celebrate that which we have accomplished and to link up and let me say energize ourselves for the work that is to be continued. You know, I think it's quite interesting that we as a people, right? We as a people, no matter what ethnic group we come from, right? We as a new African people, we as indigenous people, it's interesting how, on a broad scale, I'm talking about the masses of thinkers. I'm not talking about the 2% that know the importance of us linking, but it's interesting how ethnocentricity has been our downfall and continues to be our downfall. And African Liberation Day for me reminds me of the importance of our collectivity, the importance of our cooperations with one another, the importance of trade with one another, the importance of treaty with one another, just the importance of that united front. Because it's really the only way that we are going to collectively put ourselves in a better position. All over ethnocentristic right now is a downfall. It's always been a downfall. It's been a downfall, specifically when we have to deal with this beast on the planet. It doesn't make any sense. It makes our ranks weak.
That's right.
You know, it makes us very, very weak. And I really want us to see that. You know, we so proud. What are we proud of? We have sold ourselves. We don't have nothing to be proud of right now. We're collectively in trouble on the planet. We need to link. We need to be proud of our culture. Stand on that. Stand in and on our culture. Stop trying to be something that we're not. We are not replicas of our colonial masters. We are not that. That's not who we are. You know, it's vital that we do this. It's vital that we give up on putting other brothers and sisters down that don't belong to our ethnic group. That's like us being new African, putting put somebody down that say, look, I'm claiming Choctaw because I had the right to claim it. Or I'm claiming, you know what I mean? It's just really ridiculous. So, you know, all Africans unite. That's what African Liberation Day is about. It's about us coming together, liberating ourselves, and freeing the land, as my bio said. Then I yield back.
Definitely. I think African Liberation Day is a reminder of basically what we're supposed to be doing, period. Not only just in the United States, but globally, everywhere. Because basically when you see on the continent, you see countries who still are under the stranglehold of colonialism, even if it's neo-colonialism, but European power structure holds the power and control over these particular countries. They're just basically oppressed nations, and the European power structure is the oppressor nation. That's the same thing that's happening to Black people in America. Black people in America, we are an oppressed nation. You know, just so happened we named our nation New Africa, but we are an oppressed nation, and the United States is our oppressor nation. And the goal and objective, regardless to which oppressed nation you belong to, is to overthrow the rule and authority of the colonizer. So we all have that goal. We all have that objective. We all have that aim and strategy in common, you know, regardless, because everywhere you go on the planet, you see the same conditions. You see African people in the same condition under the rule and authority and exploitation of these European power structure. So African Liberation Day, you know, it was started as a celebration of, and I believe, didn't it start in Ghana in 1958? I believe it started in Ghana in 1958. But,
Yes.
you know, it started as the unity between individuals who had liberated themselves from colonial rule. But we understand that this European power structure is clever, is not something that's just gonna go away easy, because a lot of people have made a lot of money, got a lot of power and a lot of influence off of the exploitation of our people, and nothing gives up his life willingly. So we're gonna have to continue to fight, and we're gonna have to continue to struggle and continue to be conscious of the tricks of this European power structure, so we don't fall for the okie doke, such as neo-colonialism. So yeah, I mean, I think this is something we should always acknowledge, and should serve as a reminder that the ultimate job, the ultimate goal, is to get that power structure, that European power structure, away from us, away from our neck, away from exploiting us. Regardless to whether you're here in the United States, or if you're on the continent, or the Caribbean, South America, wherever you are, we have to shake off the hands of the oppressor, you know, whether they're colonial hands or neo-colonial hands. We got to get it out. We have to truly be liberated, gain our true independence. But is there anything y'all want to say before we get out of here? Because it's almost time for us to for us to get up.
Oh, this was a great show, Brother Prophecy. Right on time. Right on time.
Definitely.
Yes, it's an excellent show. Excellent show. Thank you so much. It's good. Just being back. Being back home. It's the last couple of weeks.
Yep. Want to give a big shout out to Umwa Abantum number 2. Salutations, family. Good to see from you. Hear from you, comrade. Good to hear from you, comrade. But this is the new African Perspective, y'all. We've been enjoying this dialogue. Make sure y'all check out all of our shows. Are y'all gonna be out on tomorrow? The Foundation of the Nation?
We'll be in a meeting, a world meeting, so we'll be on next week.
Okay, all right. Well, make sure y'all check Foundations of the Nation. We will be re-airing next week. Take a pause this week. But Thursday, conversation between Comrade and does Melly Queen show come back on this week or next week? I can't remember. But she coming back. Which one?
Next week.
Okay, all right. And we'll definitely be on Sunday for the Voices of New Africa. But I'm Brother Prophecy for Madam President and Vice President Sama Art and Mama Ayo Deli. This is the New African Perspectives. Join us again on NABA. We love y'all, family. See y'all again next week. Free the land, free the land, free the land.
If you could see what I see, our community in unity, no frustration from brutality, with our black nation a reality.
This is my perspective, it's my perspective, my perspective, my perspective, my perspective, my perspective, my perspective, it's my perspective, 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 it's my perspective.